For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the Insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derrick Evans. It's Monday, and it's a new week in America's new golden age.
Oh, that it is, man. It's been an awesome weekend. Hope you guys had an awesome weekend as well. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. Whatever platform you're watching on, if you're watching live, hop in the comments, in the chat. I read all of them. I'll do my very best to give you guys a shout out, kind of like this. We've already got Dan Dreyer and Kelly Song over here in the Rumble chat. And then we've got Amped over here in the American News X chat. And we got Thaddeus in my X chat as well. And I'll go ahead and pass it back to Mike as we got an awesome show lined up for you guys here today.
Yes, we do. And did you see Snow White over the weekend?
Did I? Oh, yeah, man. It was awesome. Took the whole family. We loved it. It was awesome. At the whole theater to ourselves. Of course not. No, I'm never taking my kids to watch that garbage. Absolutely not.
Well, nobody else saw it either. And before we get to the serious stories, man, there's some people out there that know how to put AI to good use. So they took all the negative reviews from the trailer and from people seeing it together, and they put a song together. Now, I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's like 5 minutes long, but you guys should definitely go check this out. It's all over Twitter and other places right now. But I'm going to play the first couple minutes of this, probably first verse. Here we go.
This movie on a plane, I would still walk out. This trailer makes me want to sit on the TV and look at my couch. I paid nothing to watch this trailer, but I already want my money back. Coming to a theater near you, me, is that a threat? They should have made Rachel CGI instead. Ron Brown and the 7 Discord mods. The CGI looks much better when I turn my monitor off. Disney invites you and I must politely decline. I'm rooting for the poison apple. Why is Lord Farquaad playing Snow White? This movie should come with a disclaimer. No dwarfs were harmed, but your childhood might be. I haven't seen something self-implode this hard since that Titan submarine. Mirror, mirror on the wall. As a German, I claim cultural appropriation. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Snow White in the 7 CGI abomination. Making the dwarfs look like a PS1 hack rig was a bold choice. Rachel Sadler looks like a medieval squire boy. Marvel's lost $237 million. Snow White, hold my beer. Disney used to make people famous. Now it ends acting careers. Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Oh, yeah, hats off to whoever put that together. It is absolutely hysterical. Go check it out.
Absolutely, man. I'll tell you what, people are so creative when it comes to this stuff. I absolutely love it. And yeah, I mean, look, it's sad what they have done to this, though. I mean, if they would have been a true remake, of course, I would have loved to have taken my little girls, even my boys for that matter. You know, they're young, to go see this movie, but there was no way. And I saw a video where somebody had put out this as well and said, look at the crowd who's at this theater right now watching this movie, and it turns around, and they were the only people in there. And then there was something else that I saw yesterday about it made $43 million over the weekend, which was by far the lowest remake movie that they had released. To put it in comparison, like Lion King and all that was like $250-ish million on opening weekend. So this is a total flop right out the gate.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what happens when you embrace wokeism. As Trump said, everything woke turns to shit. And I don't know if they're going to learn their lesson or they're just going to bankrupt the company. I'm sure, Walt Disney's frozen head is probably screaming in Disney's vault right now. But I don't know. Let's get into the real news because, we got a lot to cover. There's never a slow news day anymore. That's for sure. Well, right off the bat, here's what we got. Barack Obama was using USAID to pretend to send aid overseas, but was laundering it to train Rent-A-Riots instead. And, if they can't pursue criminal charges on this, I don't know what they can pursue them on, because this would appear to be a violation of the contract with USAID, promising to deliver aid overseas and then using the money for something entirely different. That seems like that should cross the line into something criminal. But again, this is just unveiling again to the American people, especially as this story gets more traction, that the left and a lot of the violence you saw was directly funded by the U.S. government, that they were laundering your tax dollars to pay for their political operatives. And heads need to roll for this, literally and figuratively.
No, I agree 100%. I want to give a couple of shout outs to, we got Squirrel over here watching from Canada. We got James Parr in the chat, and then we got You Peaked over in the Getter chat, and then Amped in the Ex American News chat is asking the exact same thing that I've been asking, and I'm sure a lot of people are wanting to know is, it doesn't matter if no one's prosecuted. Will we ever see someone actually get prosecuted for this stuff? Because we know that they're all guilty, and that's exactly where I'm at right now. I mean, finding this information is one thing, but to actually charge them and prosecute them is another. And I'm going to just go ahead and say this. I'm going to give them a little bit of time. They're moving slower than I would like, but okay, they could still come out and do this. But if we finish this Trump term with no arrests, I would argue that the Trump administration is now aiding and abetting the people who are doing this as well. That's where we're at with all this. This is unbelievable. We got to see arrests, and we got to have these people held accountable for doing this. Absolutely.
Agreed. And I do understand that some of these colossal wastes where, money went to study, gay badgers in Uganda, that kind of stuff, that there may not have actually been any laws violated. They took the money, they did what they said they did, and some retard in the U.S. government approved it. They technically didn't break the law. So I understand not being able to prosecute some of those, but stuff like this where the money was just wasted on things unrelated to what the grant money or whatever was for, then there need to be some criminal charges. Now, with these Rent-A-Riots that Obama paid for, if there was any property damage or any other criminal activity, and we know there was with funding to these riots, then we need to hold them financially and criminally liable for facilitating. It's no different than somebody goes to rob a convenience store. The getaway driver would still get charged with everything that they participated in, including if they shot a store clerk, they're getting murder charges.
Well, I mean, look, if me or you if we got together and formed a nonprofit organization, we received a grant to do X, and instead of doing X, we went and did Y, did something totally different with it, they would 100% arrest us if they found out about that, and you would go to prison, especially if you were using it to destroy, the country in some way or another. Jen over here in the X chat says, not a conspiracy anymore. That's exactly true. Shelly P says, so ready to see accountability and handcuffs for this stuff. I'm with you all the way. And that's what this is. I mean, it's crazy though to think that it was our tax dollars being laundered back to probably fund the Summer of Love or similar sorts of things. So our own tax dollars have been used to fund the destruction of our country in more ways than one. We already know a lot of the child trafficking and the open borders and the NGOs and all that, but this is just another way that our own tax dollars have been used against us to destroy our own country. And I'm at the point where it's getting close to a 1776 moment, or we need to just shut up and accept the situation we find ourselves in right now. I mean, we're at a fork in the road in terms of this country goes. I'm putting all my hope that the Trump administration is going to actually have a backbone big enough to arrest these people and hold them accountable. And if not, I'm going to have a serious conversation with myself as to whether I'm going to even care that any of these things are existing anymore, or whether I just want to forget it all exists and just, live in the mountains of West Virginia and forget the whole rest of the world exists. Because that's where I'm at. I mean, we can't continue to go down this path of knowing these things are happening and nothing is being done about it, and just accept it and move on. So those are our two options. We either get back to the principles of our founding fathers who created this country, or we accept socialism, Marxism, globalist, whatever that is that they're wanting to roll out. And we're at a true fork in the road. And I believe that the next 4 years of the Trump term is going to be a deciding factor as to which path we go down moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, the time for justice and accountability is now. And if they can go out and arrest these Tesla terrorists and other people right after their crimes are committed, then we can certainly do this with a lot of these blatant acts of fraud. And we're going to get to another story here in a second that's just as bad, if not worse, where it's been ongoing. And it was unveiled over the weekend, or I guess last week, technically, on Joe Rogan on his podcast. But yeah, people need to pay for these crimes. And especially, again, when they took money and it wasn't spent for what they said it was, or it was just straight up laundering, blank checks, clawing that back. Or let's go back to the Clinton Foundation, where they used money to pay for Chelsea's wedding, her dress, a mansion, and everything else. Why can't we claw that money back from them that was spent inappropriately? They put that as gifts for I don't know. I don't even know why a NGO would be paying for gifts, period. But it all related to funding that was supposed to go to Haiti to rebuild. So somebody needs to pay the price. We need to start seeing some arrests. We need to see people hauled off, put on trial, and then thrown in jail at the very least. Some of these, like this rent-a-mob nonsense, somebody needs to pay for this, and that somebody is Barack Obama. You're unmuted.
I want to give a quick shout out to Sean over in the Getter chat. And then I just want to go ahead and clarify something too. Like if our tax dollars were being stolen and illegally used to promote conservative causes, I would still say that this is wrong, and people should be held accountable for it. Just for the record, It's not just because it's the left who are doing things that I despise. That obviously from an emotional standpoint makes me that much more upset, because it goes against my beliefs and what I believe in. But from a point of principle, even if it was conservatives who were doing this and pushing things that I believe in, if they were stealing our tax dollars and doing it illegally, I would still have a problem with that. And I think that a lot of those on the left doesn't think that's true, but I promise you it's 100% true. I would be just as upset, maybe not from an emotional standpoint, but from the point of principle of loving the Constitution and loving this country. Wrong is wrong.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think if there's anybody in the right tied to this, once we start seeing some arrests, if there's anybody on the right, we need to make sure they're fully prosecuted too. Because again, we need to demonstrate that it is going to be equal justice. So if somebody took cash from the federal government, from USAID or any other entity, and then used it inappropriately or illegally, then heads need to roll, like I said earlier. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to this, because this is even more insane.
Well, Dan Dreyer brings up a really good point in the Rumble chat. If we are going to make arrests and such, we have to hope and get or at least get these rogue judges swapped out or under control before the trials happen, because that's an excellent point to bring up. So maybe that is the thought process here, is to rein the judges in and or take care of that situation before we start making arrests. I don't know. I'm just trying to think outside the box and think of a logical reason as to why we haven't seen arrests yet. And I had never thought about it from that perspective. So I just wanted to kind of share that with the audience as well. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
Well, that does bring up a good point, and that does kind of make sense. And I think somebody also needs to look into how all these Obama and Biden, Trump-hating judges end up with these cases. Because once something's filed, it's supposed to be random. That, once you file it with that court or that district court, it's supposed to be randomly assigned. And to have all these cases end up with these Trump-hating judges tells me that there is certainly somebody deliberately assigning these cases out to specific people. So that means we need to embed people there. and then prosecute people at the local level that are using their position to manipulate our justice system, then that's something else we need to dig into immediately and then put a stop to, because that alone will take care of, will squash a lot of these lawsuits right out the gate. When you get somebody that isn't a bought and paid for Dem operative reviewing the case, a lot of them will get tossed out before anything go forward at all. And even the ones that do then will get actual justice. The judge will dismiss it once it goes to trial, or we'll get a ruling in Trump's favor, because again, the vast majority of these actions are clearly constitutional. And even though some of the ones that are there are some questions around, I believe at the end of the day you would still sign with the executive over that. All right, so inside the now shuttered federal agency where employees lived like reigning kings. And this didn't just start. This is something that's been ongoing for a while and nothing was done about. So this is concerning the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, which was already shut down by DOJ, but now they've been digging into the records there. And this is the story that went out on Joe Rogan last either Thursday or Friday, but I just caught it over the weekend. So people within this agency, they weren't showing up to work for a while. Like, we're talking pre-COVID times. They weren't showing up to the office, weren't doing anything. This was a no-show job to pay back leftist operatives and party insiders.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Yeah, and I was just going to quickly say they also had these giant murals of themselves that were painted and such over there as if they were some king or something. Like, literally, I mean, they had like very expensive paintings of the employees there hanging on the walls. That's actually weird on top of wasteful. That's just weird to me. But go ahead, Mike.
You're exactly right. Yeah, they were using federal funds to pay their own cable bills. One person took out a lease on a BMW. There's all kinds of waste, fraud, and abuse with the credit cards that DOJ, basically shut down, moved their limits to $1 on all the cards after a judge tried to make them reactivate all the cards. The portraits, paid for self-portraits and then hung them up at the office. So there appears to be nothing, or basically nothing, that this agency was actually doing other than funding the lifestyles of these bureaucrats in D.C. To pay back these leftists. I mean, they were hiring friends and family members to do no-show jobs. Absolutely insane. And again, this is why we need to see criminal prosecutions on this stuff. A lot of this, I don't see how this would not be criminal to have spent federal money on a painting of yourself. I mean, I get that, like, Trump's appointees get a portrait taken, a photograph, and that's their official portrait. But that's not hiring a painter to go do a hand done oil painting of yourself that you're going to hang up in your glory in your government office, and then you're going to continue to suck off the taxpayers' teat.
Absolutely. I want to give a quick shout out to Hannah over in the Getter chat. Then we've got Karen and GoGo Gadget and John H. Eberhart over here in the X chat. Christina as well. Thank you guys more than you guys could ever imagine. We appreciate you guys not only watching but hopping in the chat. You realize it really add to the show and help it more than you could ever imagine. We love including you guys as part of the show. Look, I've known of like small town mayors and city council members or whatever who improperly used P cards, purchase cards, or whatever, and different things for personal use, and were arrested and thrown in prison for doing so. How is this any different other than it's at the federal level versus a small town level? It's the same exact thing for them to be paying their cable bills and other things across, the spectrum of paying for their personal lifestyles for doing so. And the precedent has already been set that these people should be arrested. And so, look, if you want to say you can't arrest Obama yet because you're building a case, okay, what about these people? Why not the Joe Schmo who's been in there stealing from the American taxpayers for who knows how long, as you said, paying their cable bill? I pay my own cable bill. I bet most of you guys pay. Well, I don't have cable, but, if I did, I would.
I pay my
own
internet.
The point. I pay my own internet. So I don't understand how that we know this, and there hasn't been an arrest yet. I'm sorry, but like the time's ticking as far as I'm concerned in terms of my patience for at least the lower level people such as this getting arrested.
What's that Moonbat's name, the mayor, is it Tiffany Hayard, whatever her name is, outside Chicago there, the big investigation where same thing, she's getting ready to go to jail probably for the rest of her life for laundering the city's funds, bankrupting them, and all the other corruption that was going on. So you're exactly right. Like if this is happening at the federal level, because this is ongoing for multiple years, like the cable bill example, the guy was paying for cable at 2 different houses he owned, and it went on for several years, hundreds of dollars a month. Again, it's peanuts compared to all the waste, fraud, and abuse, but it adds up to felonies. Once it crossed over $1,000 in fraudulent money, that's a felony. And if this entire agency, all their employees, is doing this for years going back, then they can all be thrown in the can, probably for the rest of their lives, and they should be, for defrauding the American people. You're exactly right. If this can be prosecuted at the state and the local level, same thing for misuse of funds. And we hear about this stuff all the time when somebody gets caught. Somebody just got nailed for this down in Cincinnati. I can't remember if it was a city council person or who it was, but same thing, misusing funds inappropriately, paying for stuff for themselves. And now she's going to be going to jail for decades. And that's the way this should be handled as well. I don't understand why we haven't seen arrests with some of this fraudulent spending with Doge. Maybe they are waiting to clear out judges, or they're building a case, or maybe we're going to see a whole bunch of these released in a few days, and they're keeping them quiet behind the scenes. But at the very least, if we're working on prosecutions, maybe it's time to update the American people to that's what's going on in the background. Cue us in, because I'm getting sick and tired of this, and I want to see somebody start paying the price for the corruption in D.C.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to lay down and just go to sleep, and somebody wake me up when they start perp walking these bums. But Jen over here in the X chat, Jen says they're living like royalty on taxpayer dime. That's exactly what they're doing. James Parr says school pick or a job pick, those are normal, but a $2,000 to $10,000 painting, correct, James. Not only is it not normal, that's just weird to me. Like if somebody came to me right now and said, "I'll give you a free $10,000 mural of yourself to hang in your, where you work," I would say that's really weird. John says that he came over to find out more about Derrick Evans. That's me. I like this, what I see on his post. Well, John, welcome to the show, man. We're live every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and appreciate you for stopping in. And then Christina says people need to be arrested. I know it takes time, but how also is the media allowed to lie about everything and twist it? This is where a lot of problems come from. That's a really good point as well. What is the name of that? The Smith-Month Act. We gotta get that fixed as well. So was it Obama? I'm pretty sure it was Obama that passed that. That literally gave the media officially made them government propaganda, if you will, that they yes. can knowingly and purposely lie to the American people in order to push the narrative of the government. That is unbelievable that we allowed this to happen, and that we're continuing to allow it to happen. And hopefully the Trump administration will fix that. I don't really know what kind of teeth were available beforehand, but basically before Obama, even if it was propaganda, they wasn't necessarily officially working hand in hand with the government, and now they are. And so that's definitely a major issue in this country right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's not forget the Smith-Month Act. The big part of that was in response to Operation Mockingbird, where we knew the CIA was going in and planting stories in the media that had always been assumed they wouldn't propagandize the American people prior to that. Even during, wartime, there's some reason to keep things quiet during like World War II, or not release information to the American people immediately for safety or other reasons. But that's not the case of what's going on today. Now it's pure propaganda. And you're right. Obama, I think it was he refused to renew it or cancel it through executive order. I'll have to go back and look. But yeah, that was one of the last things he did leaving office, and it was to set up for exactly what we saw during Trump's first term with this effort within government to censor and propagandize the American people. Guys, we got to take a quick break.
Before I want to end the break on a really awesome audience comment, so because we're going to lose it if not. Christina says, "I voted to clean house, not just dust through the shit." That's exactly how I think all of us feel. So I thought it was a perfect comment to end this segment on. So thank you, Christina.
Exactly. And I just want to see some arrests. I do understand, especially with some of this government money laundering, they can't get everybody that they technically didn't violate the law, but at the very least, there needs to be an effort to both claw back the funds, hold them personally accountable if they wasted the money, and charge people criminally for any actual violations or anything like this, where it's just so highly inappropriate. All right, guys, we got to take a quick break here from our sponsors. We'll be right back with even more.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, you can support our program and Mike Blundell's battle for free and fair elections by using code Insurrection at MyPillow or MyStore.com. Again, tons of great products to choose from, and it's a way to support a patriot and help to save our country. Get yourself some MyPillows if you don't already have one. I can highly recommend the towel sets too. They're great bath towels, especially for the price. And again, I'm a giant fan of the slippers. The moccasin slippers are amazing.
Just for the record, he's not just saying that. He is truly obsessed with these slippers. I'm not even joking. So I just wanted to clarify. He's not saying that for the giggles of it. He really loves it. And then I want to give a quick shout out to Jason Lee in the X chat, and then Travis Parsley and Yak Hunter. And Yak Hunter brought up a really good point over here during the break of what we were just discussing there, that this is possibly the biggest RICO case the United States has ever experienced. And that's, they love the RICO stuff the left did. They tried to bring that on Trump and everybody else. So except the fact is that these people actually have committed, at least potentially, RICO charges here. So it would be definitely the largest RICO case ever.
Yeah, and again, all it's going to take is showing criminal violations and everybody that coordinated it and used that money. And I think that's going to be what we have to do to bring down some of these organizations that were involved, not just the individuals. The individuals are great, but we can shut down some of these large entities that have helped launder money for the Democrats and coordinate criminal violence during the Summer of Love and other riots that they've, even these recent ones at the Tesla dealerships. They should be able to go after Open Societies Foundation and others that were directly funding this this activity that turned criminal once they started shooting cars and setting them on fire. And again, I don't understand how this other website is still up that has all the private information for Tesla owners on it, including Kash Patel's. But again, something needs to start happening. Well, I am starting to wonder if there isn't somebody playing impractical jokers on within the media right now, too. Desperate Legacy Media is trying to make AOC 2028 happen. And I say bring it on. Again, like she is one of their media darlings. But like we were discussing off air, she's highly unpopular with people in the middle. And most people just, unfortunately for her, it reflects reality with some of her speeches. But most of them just think she's an idiot anyway, that she doesn't know how to talk. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And people in New York haven't forgot how she sabotaged Amazon from coming into the Bronx and creating thousands of good paying jobs with her little protest then.
Oh, well, first of all, she is an idiot. I mean, she truly is. But I'll say this. She fights for what she believes in, and I wish we had Republicans who were willing to do that as well. She's 100% at least planning to run for president or testing the waters to run for president. I think it's obvious that Bernie Sanders is going to support her. Shall she decide to do that? Look, we laugh at AOC. I mean, I do. I was telling Mike off air, I think she's dangerous. I think she's a threat. I really do. I know that sounds crazy, but like she can energize the base their base where Kamala Harris was not able to do so. And there's a lot of people out there, as me and Mike were talking before we came on the air, that don't accept their own reality or like that, or that the consequences of their own actions that put them in the position that they're in. There's so many people who believe that they're only in this position because of the structure of our country, if you will, or the world. And so therefore, instead of accepting responsibility for them, having all this debt or whatever. They think that the government should wave a magic wand and fix everything for them. And when you start preaching that to people who are feeling, whether it's their own fault or not, when they're feeling desperate and drowning and all of this, they're going to latch on to that sort of messaging. And but just because they want change, they're like, well, what we've been doing doesn't work. Let's try something new. And I think that's where she's dangerous in that regard. But I don't know. I mean, I think that she's definitely running for president right now.
Oh, absolutely. And you're exactly right, too. People will take whatever excuse you give them rather than accept their own personal failings or their laziness and accept that as the reason that they're in their fate and suffering at their current position. So that's where she's dangerous. Now, here's the other thing, though. So I think with the breakdown in the left's media apparatus, that it's going to be a lot harder to sell her to the American people. That they won't be able to just craft a narrative that people go along with it. There's just hours and hours of video of just retarded nonsense coming out of AOC's mouth, and that's what's going to get run constantly. That and her calls for violence and other things, and it's going to make her unpalatable. But hey, I hope they go with her because, right now the Democrat voters themselves appear to be on a suicidal warpath. 36% of Democrat voters favor Kamala Harris for 2028 presidential nominee. Morning Consult poll. Please, I hope so. I hope we get a Kamala AOC ticket and it can just go down in a giant flaming disaster. Because if they think Kamala Harris can win anything at this point, they're absolutely delusional. Well, I mean, they are delusional, but even worse than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about people who think that men can be women. So, I mean, yeah, they're definitely delusional. I want to give a shout out to Lynn and Linda over here in the X chat. Linda's Mavin49, if I said that correct. But appreciate you guys for tuning in here. Yeah, look, and who was it? Somebody had a really good comment. Thaddeus. Thaddeus says AOC is a socialist and very dangerous if we're not paying attention. And that's what I think. Maybe that's part of just my concern is if someone like that were to ever be elected, oh my gosh, man, could you imagine? I mean, we're talking about, Trump is
Real
swinging the
brown shirts
pendulum
in the
all the way.
streets.
I mean, Trump's swinging this pendulum all the way to the right now, which needs to happen to save our country and getting back to the Constitution. I believe that if they ever were able to get someone like AOC in that position, it would be chaos. I mean, if we think that Trump is doing a lot right now, they would do even more, except it'd be in the opposite direction. And we know that when it comes down to it, Democrats are willing to fall on the sword or whatever else when it comes time to push their initiative because they play the long game, and they would roll out anything and everything that they possibly could. And it would be a very, very dangerous place for a country. But I'm telling you, she's going to run. I was trying to find this data. I saw it over the weekend. I'll find it and try to get it ready for the next show. But somebody did cell phone data on these crowds that were showing up to the AOC rally, kind of like the Kamala Harris stuff, where it's all staged, it's all fake. Most of these people had been to 20 plus rallies, aka they're being bussed in, they're being paid to go to these things. This is not an organic. I mean, sure, some of these people are there organically, obviously, but the vast majority of these people are either paid or they're part of this movement to create this facade that there are this many, people upset with Trump, and that's why they're the same people who are paying for these people to show up to the AOC Bernie rallies are probably the same people who are paying for these people to go to these Republican town halls of these elected Republicans and kind of raise some cane there to attack it as if it's organic. When I say that the same people paying for that, I really mean you and me, the taxpayers, because they're probably stealing our money and funneling it back through some sort of organization to pay for all these people. So we're paying for it ourselves.
I wouldn't be surprised to learn that, 50% of her crowd for this little event in Colorado were federal employees, federal workers that, went out there for the weekend and then probably are expensing it off to the American taxpayer for the travel and everything else. So don't be surprised when we figure that out or once somebody goes through the data. But I guess apparently Bernie Sanders doesn't want to be president. Bernie Sanders shocks supporters, praises Trump's border security. Quote, nobody thinks illegal immigration is appropriate. This is him him going back to his old position, because this is one of the things Bernie Sanders used to be right about until, he was talked into dropping out of the race in 2016 so the Hildebeest could run for president. But he used to understand that bussing in a gazillion illegals depresses American wages. It hurts the poorest among us. It hurts unions. Again, another one of their big constituents there. And he used to understand that and even acknowledge the rise in crime. But somebody gave Bernie a talking to. But I don't know. Maybe his dementia's kicking in now too, and he slipped back to his old positions. Who knows?
That's funny. Well, shout out to Chris over here in the X chat. Appreciate you, Kawi or Chris, whatever. But anyways, appreciate you for tuning in. Bernie, so even more interesting about that quote from Bernie is he was asked in an open-end question, is there anything that President Trump has done or is doing that you agree with? And that's when he said, well, securing the border. I mean, he literally said that. I was like, what in the world just happened? Is this real life? And he did. He said that. And so to me, it was more how he was given an open-ended question and he decided to do that. He also said, though, that, he's 83 years old because they asked him about running for president. And he was like, look, I'm 83 years old. So I don't think that he's going to. But I'll tell you what, I used to, believe it or not, even though I disagree with pretty much everything that Bernie Sanders believes, I actually at one point had a little bit of respect for him from the standpoint of I felt that some of these people, the Clintons, for instance, I feel like they're evil. I feel like they are evil people,
Yes.
and set their policies aside, I think they're evil. I've always felt that Bernie, even though I disagree with him, I do feel, and maybe he's got me, pulled the wool over my eyes, I don't know, but I feel like he is genuine in his beliefs and is coming from a place of a good heart. I just think he's misguided. And so that is kind of where I've always been with him. But I'll tell you, when he turned on Tulsi Gabbard on her confirmation, that's when I was like, you know what? Any of the little tiny bit of respect that I had for him went out the window. She, if you remember, stepped down as vice chair of the DNC over what they did to Bernie, and she endorsed him for president when they did that to him and stood up for him. And then all he had to do was just not say anything. He just didn't have to say, even if he didn't vote for her, he didn't have to come out against her, and he came out against her. And it's like anybody who would do that after what she was willing to give up to stand on what she believed was the right thing, he's just as bad as the rest of them as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah, agreed. Yeah, I used to, too, think Bernie was a true believer until he showed us all that he could be bought off just like anyone else and flip positions on a dime. Well, I got some bad news for leftists in California. It looks like people out there finally had enough of your shenanigans. Nearly half of Californians consider voting Republican for governor in 2026 amid Democrat failures, statewide poll reveals. And, again, I think this is the same thing we've discussed over and over again, that even dedicated leftists have gotten to the point where things have gotten so bad, even in blue states, where they are demanding change, especially seeing like the level of corruption, the being two-faced, rules for thee, not for me, as we've seen with Newsom between the going out to the French Laundry restaurant and everything else during COVID. And this guy's just such an oily snake that I think they finally had enough. And there's not another prominent leftist in California that's stepping up right now that's palatable. Same with Kamala Harris. These people lived under her as AG, and she's threatened to run for governor out there too. So maybe I don't think we'll see a real shift to the right, but maybe we'll get somebody in California that can at least get some of this mess cleaned up.
If we could just turn California purple to make the Democrats defend that in future elections, that in itself would be a huge win.
Huge victory.
It would be a huge win. I mean, I don't see us flipping it, at least not anytime soon, unless, I guess what I should say is I hope that President Trump deports so many illegals that we are able to properly flip California red. But if we could just turn it into a swing state, that'd be great. I'll say this, unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately, but I think most of us knew this in terms of the American people were not did not have the appetite for the far left people who were taking over the Democrat Party. Unfortunately, I believe that the influential people within the Democrat Party have realized that as well. That's why Gavin Newsom has launched that podcast. That's why he also is pretending to be a moderate on that podcast. He, said he didn't think it was fair for men to be in women's sports. It's like, well, why are you allowing it to happen in your state then, Gavin? So
Yeah.
he and anytime you hear from Gavin Newsom, he's going to run for president as well. Obviously, I think we all know that. But I go back to the Tucker Carlson segment on that, where Tucker Carlson in a podcast said that of all the people he's ever met, that he basically suggested that Gavin Newsom was literally a psychopath. He said, "I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose him." He said, but he's never met anybody who could look you right in the eyes and just tell you a bold-faced lie and not even flinch and palms don't get sweaty like you and just cold as a cucumber when he does it. So he's never met anybody like that. And I think you're already starting to see that come out on these podcasts, such as he said, nobody ever used the term Latinx. And CNN of all people put together a compilation of all the times that Gavin Newsom himself had used the term Latinx. So he's definitely, I don't know if the CNN's coming after him a little bit because he has at least somewhat recently playing the moderate card when it comes to the transgender issue. But he's definitely trying to rebrand himself as a moderate. And I think that's because he has realized the same thing we're talking about right now is the American people are not on board with the agenda of the far left.
Well, I think CNN's covering some of this stuff right now so they don't have to cover it later. They can say, oh, this is an old issue. We already discussed it when he does make his bid for president. That's the other thing they like to do is, cover some story that would, wreck his presidential bid 6 years prior to that and then pretend it's an old dead issue instead of bringing it up and reminding people of what he said, done in his past. And you're exactly right. Like this podcast right now, he's just trying to separate himself from his policies and the consequences of his policies and trying to pretend somehow it was someone else in California's government. That's who's the real bad guy. He was always there trying to help the people and do the right thing the whole time. All right, guys, we got to take one more break, hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with even more.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. But I'm sure, or at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs on X American News is by supporting our sponsors. So please go to lutfstudios.com, buy yourself a unique, one-of-a-kind, handmade art piece. It'll be a family heirloom you can pass down to future generations. And if you could use code Insurrection, you'll get a discount there. We count on all the hard work that Annie does behind the scenes to help bring you the news. And she'll be relaunching her program here in the next week or so, too. So keep your eyes out for that. Well, we got one more kind of story in this vein, and then we're going to jump to another topic. Democrats have a manhood problem. Yeah, no shit. In more ways than one. Between all the trannies getting arrested for burning Teslas and shooting them, and just the general tranny madness that has infected the Democrat Party, there are no men left. There's no manly men. The testosterone's completely gone, and even the women of the Democrat Party are starting to wake up to this reality and saying that, you know what? Maybe this wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah. Well, that's an understatement right there of the Democrats have a manhood problem. I mean, it is, I mean, you think about the Krasensteins, the Harry Sissons. I mean, these are the people who are the influencers on that side of things. It's absolutely crazy. I do think people are waking up, but I think what we're really seeing right now is we are seeing a civil war within the Democrat Party. We just went through our own civil war here in the Republican Party of MAGA attempting to take over the party from the globalist warmongering neocons, the Mitt Romneys of the world, if you will. And we won that battle. It took a while, but I think that President Trump winning this last time, not just the general election, but the primary in the fashion that he did, where he didn't debate, didn't do anything, just said, I think that solidified that MAGA has taken over the Republican Party. Obviously, we still have our own house to clean up and other things to get where we want to be, but I think we've officially solidified MAGA as the new Republican Party. I think what you're seeing right now on the Democrat side is the same thing. You have the very far left transgender sort of people who are attempting to take over the Democrat Party, and they are winning. And it's pretty fascinating considering that they are a very small percentage of the people, even on the Democrat side, who most of them don't believe in the trans issue or whatever, but they are just kind of conceding and giving that party over to the left-wing extremists. And I think that's what we're seeing right now is there's a little bit of a civil war taking place within the Democrat Party.
Yeah, well, I think letting their psychotic cult members and then essentially the Democrat Socialists of America set the agenda, that's good for us because, as we've seen in this polling, the percentage of Americans that support and approve the Democrat Party keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We've had record numbers of voters leaving the left and joining the Republicans, as we've discussed numerous times, and that's been since the election. And again, the middle finds everything that they stand for unpalatable. I mean, the other thing I'll say on this before we jump to the next topic is, there was a story run, I think it was in the Washington Post over the weekend, and sorry if I'm wrong, but it was written by some tranny activist, and the comments section sort of turned into a rebuke of the Democrats. Basically, this is what's wrong with the Democrat Party right now. This is why I can't support you anymore, and I won't be able to in the future. A lot of people that were Democrat voters in there and telling them, hey, this is a big reason why I left, or this is why I'm leaving now. And again, they're just not getting the message. I don't see a real effort to correct within the Democrat Party. You've had a few people come out and say some things, but they're the extreme minority. Most of the party, like you said, is all on board with this just socialist nonsense that the American people find so unpalatable.
Absolutely. I mean, look, at one point, obviously Republicans and Democrats had different views of what they wanted the country or how to get to the end goal of just continuing making America the greatest country in the world. And I believe that the far left, I'm not going to say all Democrats, but we're all getting to the point that if you're still identifying as a Democrat, then, but the far left wants to destroy this country. I mean, that is their end goal right now, is to just tear down Western civilization. They don't like anything about the Constitution and how they want socialism, they want Marxism. When it's fascinating though, there's all these other countries out there already have those things. Move to those countries, leave us alone. But yeah, I mean that's exactly what's going on here. Is the far left is taking over the Democrat Party, but the bad news is they hate this country and they want to destroy it, and that's the difference.
Yeah, we are rapidly approaching the point where just being a member of and supporting the Democrats is probably a good enough reason for the police to get a warrant to search your laptop for CP. So that just tells me, that's the direction they're headed. All right, guys, we got some good news here. IRS moves to make deal with ICE to locate illegal immigrants through addresses on tax forms. This is brilliant, and we should have started this a while back because, again, ICE knows, the IRS and Social Security Administration, they know what Social Security numbers and other information was generated for a lot of these invaders over the last 4 years. And I'm sure there's an easy way to sort that, hand it off, and then use that as a tool to begin throwing out, that's something else we really need to see. We need to see these deportations ramped up to 11. And it's, I know they're still focusing on criminals and, violent felons that are here, but it's time for general roundups. If you want to use local police or bounty hunters or other people to start making that happen, we need to start seeing people flowing over the border en masse. If they're going back to Mexico, they don't even need deportation flights. We just push them across the border and let Mexico's government deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, load them up in a old 1975 school bus and take them out of here. I don't really care how we get them out of here, to be honest with you. If another country doesn't want to take their people back, I mean, we got parachutes. Just fly over top and and
That's
let them
right.
parachute down. I couldn't care less, honestly. I think that we should, in addition to using the IRS stuff, we should use the CBP One app that they had used to track these people who have that on their phones and all that information. Track them, go there and get them. You know, somebody asked me the other day. They said, "Well, what if it's a child?" I'll go ahead and tell you right now on the record. I don't care if it's a 5-year-old child. If they are here illegally, deport them. Now, you can do it with some dignity on a child. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to be mean to them, but they are here illegally. I don't care if they're a child. I don't care if they're a 90-year-old grandmother. I don't care who they are. If they're here illegally, they've got to go. Period. End of discussion. You're not going to get me on these pulling these little heartstrings BS garbage. You're not going to do that. These people have invaded our country. They're here illegally. They are destroying our country. And then my question to those on the left, and I've asked this at multiple different left-wing protests, and I've never been able to get a straight answer usually on this. So I asked people, I said, well, we obviously, would you agree that we can't accept everybody from the entire world can't live here? And they would say yes. I say, well, okay, so what is that number? Like, how many people can America sustain with it living in our country? Like right now we have whatever 330 million. Can we sustain 500 million? Is it 100 million? Or I mean, is it a billion? Like, what is the answer? And whatever answer they give me, let's just say they say a billion, and then I ask them, okay, once we get to a billion, and there's still more people wanting to come to our country, what do you think we should do? How do we prevent that? And they refuse to give an answer. But my response would be, well, that's what we need to do now. Like, period, end of discussion. Like, we don't need to get to that point. And that's, I'm trying to reason with these people, but it's impossible to reason with most of the people who are on the left. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah, well, another great story from over the weekend, sort of related to this, is they deported a family together. They had their anchor baby. I don't remember if it was son or daughter that was born recently, and they sent the parents and the anchor baby back to their country of origin. I can't remember if that was Mexico or where it was, but we need to, again, see more of that. We can't let them abuse our laws and our kindness as a way to stay here. Families can be deported together. That's great. Technically, that kid's still an American citizen until, our Supreme Court finally sorts this out, and hopefully we are able to get this this birthright citizenship thing resolved in the birth tourism and everything else. But the other thing I found interesting with this story was local news that covered it somewhere, again, trying to create a sob story, tug on people's heartstrings, and the comment sections told them exactly where we are in reality. It was overwhelmingly supporting this and telling the media agency that you guys shouldn't be running air cover for these invaders. That same thing. No other countries on earth, or no other first world country, allows birthright citizenship. Everyone else has rules. Both the parents are from that country, and the kid's born, then they're a citizen. Otherwise, sorry, you're still a foreign national. Go back to where you came from.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up that story. I forgot about that. Really quick shout out to Rick over in the X chat. Appreciate you for tuning in, Rick. So I saw that story as well, and there were so many people, these left-wing quote-unquote influencers or whatever in the media, who were falsely saying that the Trump administration was deporting a child who was a U.S. citizen. That's not true. The parents who are here illegally were deported, and they chose to take their child with them, as they should, who happens to be a U.S. citizen. The child, the way the media portrayed this was as if this child was apprehended by us or whatever, and was deported out of this country, even though that the child is an American citizen. That is not what happened. The parents are here illegally. I would even argue that the child is here illegally, but we got the birthright citizenship stuff to deal with right now. But the parents were deported, and they chose to take the child with them. In theory, the child could have stayed. Obviously, I'm glad that they did not. I believe that parents or that children should be with their parents, in terms of if at all possible. But that was what happened. But it just goes to show you how the media and the left tries to spin and twist these narratives. There's people out there right now who are mad at President Trump, thinking that he's rounding up children who are American citizens just because they're of Hispanic descent and deporting them. And the media are the ones who are lying to these people and telling them that. And that's simply not the truth. So I'm glad you brought this story up.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to continue to see them try to create these stories. I saw another one over the weekend where they were trying to make people feel bad that Florida police officers, many of them have been deputized under ICE, and same thing, they're beginning to conduct roundups and deportations. This is a good thing. We need to see more of it. More states should be getting involved to help clear up this problem once and for all. And it's the other thing that we've said over and over again is once we will start really seeing mass deportations, you are going to see a good number of these people eliminate themselves. They won't want to deal with the hassles from law enforcement or end up on a list somewhere where they can never come back in to the U.S. again. So this will get more and more effective as things move forward. But we do need to see more deportations. The sooner, the better. We're almost out of time here, but I want to cover just a couple little stories that we got left. There's one that we've been skipping for a little while that I want to make sure we get to tonight or this morning. Man, it's been a rough day already. Before we're off air, RFK Jr. pushes for cell phone bans in schools, citing poor performance, students mental health. Next, RFK Jr. eats steak and shake on live TV, celebrates fast food chains' bold move to fry in beef tallow. And now they're not the only ones. There's a list of around 20 chain restaurants that are making the same move now. Well, 20 might be an exaggeration. It might be around 15 so far. And then lastly, RFK Jr. asked CDC to investigate link between vaccines and autism as childhood diagnosis skyrocket. Again, I think these are all three brilliant moves. These are the reasons we wanted RFK Jr. Up there overseeing America's health and getting us back to a better track. A lot of states have also taken up his mantle. Like over in West Virginia, you guys are banning all these disgusting dyes made from coal tar and insect skin.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on the vaccine autism thing, I put out a post earlier today. It's kind of taken off here on X. I found a video. It's an older video, a documentary, kind of like a news segment of this family who the boy had autism, and they did a rigorous detoxing from all the heavy metals. And the boy is no longer autistic. And I was reading the comments before we came on air, and there were other parents who were sharing similar sorts of feedback on there. And the reason I bring that up is we know there's a lot of heavy metals in these vaccines, and I'm not saying it, that this is completely true for everybody. I don't know. This is the first time I've just ever seen a story such as this. I thought it was fascinating. That's why I shared it. And I'm getting even more fascinated reading the comments about that. In terms of the cell phone ban, let me first say banning cell phones would be good so that the teachers get off their phones and teach the class, I guess. But but in all actuality, though, as a parent, I have a little bit of issues with that. If my kids aren't old enough to have phones, but when they are, I want to be able to get a hold of them. And I've seen children, texting their family during school shooting events and such, and you just never know what else is going to happen. Now, if the cell phone is becoming an issue in the classroom, you can let me know, and I promise you that'll only happen one time. I will take care of that at the house for sure. And so I agree that they should not be allowed to be out during the class and being a disruption and all of that. But look, I was a teacher, guys, for 4 years. I've dealt with this as well. Is it an issue? Yes. If you nip it in the bud, or you are a little bit understanding as a teacher, I'll tell you what I did, believe it or not. I actually told my kids, I was teaching middle school, and I told them, I said, during roll, when I'm taking roll at the beginning of the class, as long as it's not an issue, I told them at the beginning of the year, you can be on your phones. I'm cool with that, because they want to check on their games or whatever, message their parents. I said, that's fine. But if this becomes an issue, like, we're done with that, and you're not allowed to, we're not gonna have them out at all in my classroom. And believe it or not, even at middle school, they were mature enough to have their phones out. And I said, all right, guys, roll's over with. They'd put them away. We had no issues at all in my classroom. And I think that was because, part of that stuff. But so teachers are going to have to, it's a little bit harder for teachers, but as a parent, I pay that cell phone bill. I give that to my child so I can communicate with my child. I have a little bit of an issue with somebody saying that they're not going to let them have that or take that to school or whatever. Like, I agree it shouldn't be out, and I think that parents need to do a better job of parenting their children and kind of working with teachers on this issue. But I don't know, man. I think it's a little, as a parent, I'm a little apprehensive about just banning it and saying they're not allowed to have it at all. That's just me.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think that's something we necessarily need a full-on ban, but a ban in the classroom, like they can't be out, they can't be used, and if they are, they're confiscated until the end of the day. Something like that, I think, seems a little more appropriate, especially today with a lot of kids, like especially in high school. You want them to have a phone in case their car breaks down or something else happens, even outside of outside of the classroom. I mean, I suppose the counter argument is, well, they could leave it in their car, I've seen where I don't remember. I think this was a private school somewhere, but they and this article is like 2 years old now, but where they had as people came in with their phones every day, there was a separate set of lockers the students had to lock their phones up in if they wanted to go get the phone during their lunch or during their break. I think it was a high school, and make a phone call, send a text message, check whatever, play their games. That was fine, but otherwise the phones had to stay in these other lockers. Guys, unfortunately, we are about out of time. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear.